The Hebrew Novel Project is a citizen science initiative aimed at reading and cataloging the entire corpus of Hebrew novels, around 8,500 titles from the first Hebrew novel published in 1853 to contemporary ones published in Hebrew today. If this sounds unusual, it is likely because no similar project has been undertaken in any other literature language. So far, we've collected over 1,100 questionnaire responses containing bibliographical, narratological, and thematic data on more than 700 different novels. Readers continue to contribute their readings to the project's growing database, and we currently have data covering about 8% of the Hebrew novel corpus. The concept underlying the Hebrew Novel Project and distinguishing it from traditional literary studies is distant reading, a term boldly coined by Franco Moretti in contrast to the common practice of close reading. According to Moretti, close reading perpetuates a very small canon focusing on the same books that we read and reread again and again. With this in mind, attempting to research not just the canonical fraction, but also what was named by Margaret Cohen as the Great Unread, we, that is, Dr. Itai Marienberg-Milikovsky and I, formulated an extensive questionnaire of 77 questions that allow for many further research questions to be asked and answered. For example, about the dominant narrator in different phases of the Hebrew novel, themes, the common themes seen here, and uncommon ones that can suggest different insights, pace of events, grammatical tense, and more. While our data opens up numerous avenues for research, I'm currently collaborating with Professor Uri Rol from the Department of Desert Ecology at BGU to analyze a dataset focused on space and time in the Hebrew novel. We asked, where do the plots of Hebrew novels take place, and how have these settings changed over time? This, for example, shows the dominance of the city and yet a rise in recent years of nature in the Hebrew novel. We asked, how central is Israel to the Hebrew novel? The blue line, central, the orange line, marginal, and the gray line is for novels that don't include Israel at all, an interesting subgroup that deserves close reading research. Here we see the location of the Hebrew novel published in the year of 2000 and onwards, with Israel being the main location, followed by Western Europe and the US, with only a handful of novels taking place in Israel's neighboring countries. If we go back in time to the second half of the 20th century, we see a similar picture of the centrality of Israel and its isolation from its surrounding. And here, in the first century of the Hebrew novel, we see that Eastern Europe is the most dominant space. Interestingly, Eastern Europe is also quite dominant in 21st century novels. This made us curious about the time of publication versus the time of plot. We asked, do Hebrew novels published in the 21st century go back in time to depict, say, Eastern Europe? Here we examine Eastern Europe, Western Europe, and the US with regards to this question. According to this chart, we can assert that in the imagination of the Hebrew novel, plots set in Eastern Europe are likely to depict past, prior to the establishment of the State of Israel, while Western Europe and the US tend to serve as present-day settings. Our next step is to examine the connection or isolation of Israel from its immediate surroundings through similar questions of plot and publication time, as well as through other questions that can support this exploration, for example, languages used in the novel. Once we have a website with search, browse, and visualize options, you can also use the data for research and pedagogy. Thank you very much.